James B. Donovan was born in 1916 in the Bronx, New York City, into a world still recovering from World War I and entering the turbulence of the Great Depression. His upbringing instilled in him both a strong work ethic and a deep curiosity about the world. From an early age, he displayed remarkable intelligence, excelling in school and developing a keen sense of justice and fairness. These traits would later define his career, setting him apart from many of his contemporaries. He eventually attended Harvard Law School, where his brilliance and diligence became evident. While many students focused solely on grades and career prospects, Donovan immersed himself in international law, debates, and the study of global politics. Little did anyone know that this young law student would one day navigate the shadowy and dangerous world of international espionage, becoming a figure whose actions would influence global events. In the early 1940s, as World War II raged across Europe, Donovan joined the Office of Strategic Services, OSS, the precursor to the modern CIA. While his formal role was that of an attorney and legal advisor, Donovan quickly found himself involved in operations that went far beyond legal paperwork. He advised on clandestine missions, covert intelligence gathering, and the complex coordination between allied intelligence networks. Unlike traditional spies, Donovan rarely went undercover in enemy territory himself. Instead, his expertise lay in crafting strategies, interpreting international law, and ensuring that operations were both effective and lawful. By 1941, Donovan was stationed in London as part of the OSS liaison team. The city, still recovering from the Blitz, was a hub of intelligence activity. Donovan worked closely with British intelligence, analyzing intercepted communications, assisting in planning sabotage operations, and helping coordinate espionage missions across occupied Europe. He was meticulous in his work, understanding that even the smallest error could lead to catastrophic consequences. His legal background allowed him to anticipate potential international complications and ensure that the OSS operated within the boundaries of diplomacy and law while still achieving strategic objectives. Donovan's approach to espionage was unique. While many agents relied on deception, disguise, or physical risk, Donovan's strength lay in his ability to negotiate, reason, and outthink adversaries. He understood that information was power and that intelligence operations required careful planning, patience, and an understanding of human psychology. His skill in reading people, interpreting intentions, and predicting reactions became his most valuable asset. This approach would later define some of the most critical moments of his career, where diplomacy and strategy were more powerful than weapons. After World War II, Donovan became involved in the Nuremberg trials, one of the most significant legal proceedings in history. Though he was not a prosecutor, his expertise was invaluable in managing the logistics of the trials and ensuring that critical evidence was preserved and presented correctly. The trials exposed the horrific crimes of the Nazi regime, and Donovan's contribution highlighted the importance of combining legal acumen with strategic intelligence. These experiences deepened his understanding of international law and human behavior, preparing him for the challenges he would face during the Cold War. Perhaps the most famous chapter of Donovan's life began in 1960, during the U-2 incident. An American reconnaissance plane, piloted by Francis Gary Powers, was shot down over the Soviet Union. The situation was tense. Retrieving Powers required delicate negotiations, as any misstep could escalate into a full-blown international crisis. Donovan was chosen for the mission due to his proven ability to navigate complex, high-stakes situations. Traveling to East Berlin, he met with Soviet officials under intense scrutiny and suspicion. His legal background, calm demeanor, and reputation for integrity allowed him to maintain open lines of communication even in the most tense moments. The negotiations culminated in the successful exchange of Powers for Rudolf Abel, a Soviet spy convicted in the United States. This event would later inspire the film Bridge of Spies, cementing Donovan's legacy as a master negotiator in espionage history. But Donovan's work did not end with the U-2 exchange. In 1962, following the failed Bay of Pigs invasion, he was called upon to negotiate in Cuba, where thousands of American prisoners were being held. Donovan faced a politically charged and dangerous environment, using the same principles that had guided him throughout his career: diplomacy, intelligence, and careful negotiation. He met with Cuban leaders, including Fidel Castro. Against enormous odds, he secured the release of the prisoners, demonstrating that negotiation and intelligence could achieve what brute force could not. His actions in Cuba solidified his reputation as a negotiator capable of influencing the course of international events without resorting to violence. Throughout his life, Donovan's strategic mind, moral clarity, and courage stood out. He understood the importance of relationships, trust, and reputation in intelligence work. He also appreciated the ethical challenges of espionage, always striving to minimize harm while achieving his objectives. Whether coordinating with OSS officers in Europe, negotiating with Soviet officials in Berlin, or navigating the tense political landscape of Cuba, Donovan consistently demonstrated that intelligence and negotiation were as potent as any weapon. Donovan's story also emphasizes the human dimension of espionage. Behind the operations, there were real people, agents, prisoners, officials, whose lives depended on the careful decisions he made. His ability to empathize with others, anticipate their moves, and maintain composure under pressure was crucial to his success. Every mission, every negotiation, and every strategic decision reflected a careful balance of intellect, courage, and ethical consideration. Visualizing Donovan's life, one can trace a journey across multiple continents. The bustling streets of New York, where he grew up and studied law. The war-torn cities of London and Berlin, where he coordinated intelligence operations. The tense corridors of East Berlin, where he orchestrated the U-2 exchange. And the politically volatile environment of Havana, where he secured the release of prisoners. Each location represents a chapter in a life defined by intelligence, diplomacy, and moral courage. These places are not just backdrops. They are integral to understanding the stakes and the complexity of Donovan's work. His legacy continues to influence intelligence professionals and historians alike. Donovan's approach, combining law, strategy, diplomacy, and ethics, offers valuable lessons on how to navigate complex global challenges. He demonstrated that some of the most significant victories in history are achieved not through force, but through intellect, negotiation, and the courage to stand firm in difficult circumstances. Donovan's story serves as a reminder that intelligence work is as much about human understanding as it is about secrecy and strategy. James Donovan's extraordinary career demonstrates the intricate balance between intelligence, law, and diplomacy in shaping world events. After the U-2 incident and the Cuban negotiations, Donovan's reputation as a negotiator of unparalleled skill became firmly established. However, the full depth of his work and influence extends far beyond these headline events. One of the lesser-known aspects of Donovan's life was his meticulous preparation for every mission. Before even stepping foot into Berlin or Havana, Donovan immersed himself in the political, cultural, and historical context of the locations where he would operate. He studied not only treaties and legal precedents, but also the personalities of the leaders and intelligence officers he would encounter. His approach reflected a deep understanding that espionage was not just about gathering information, it was about understanding people and predicting behavior under extreme pressure. During his time with the OSS in Europe, Donovan coordinated operations that spanned several countries. In London, he worked alongside British intelligence officers, providing legal oversight while simultaneously contributing to mission planning. The complexity of these operations cannot be overstated. Agents were inserted into occupied France, Belgium, and the Netherlands to gather critical intelligence on German troop movements and military installations. Donovan's role often involved reviewing operational plans, ensuring that missions complied with international law, and advising on how to minimize civilian casualties while achieving strategic objectives. He became known for his ability to balance risk and reward, assessing when a mission should proceed and when it should be postponed or altered to prevent unnecessary loss of life. One of the most fascinating aspects of Donovan's career was his ability to maintain trust with multiple parties, even those who were natural adversaries. This skill was particularly evident during the planning of the U-2 exchange in 1962. The Political climate was tense, with both the United States and the Soviet Union on edge. Any misstep could escalate into a confrontation that might ignite nuclear war. Donovan approached the negotiations with a clear strategy: establish trust, communicate directly, and emphasize mutual interest in resolving the crisis without violence. His legal and diplomatic training allowed him to carefully craft each message and proposal, anticipating possible objections and counter-proposals. The result was a delicate choreography of negotiation that culminated in the successful exchange of Francis Gary Powers for Rudolph Abel, demonstrating that careful, principled negotiation could achieve what sheer force could not. Beyond the dramatic incidents of international espionage, Donovan's work also reflected a commitment to ethical conduct in intelligence operations. Many spies of the era operated in morally ambiguous spaces, often prioritizing national objectives over human concerns. Donovan, however, consistently sought to limit harm and protect innocent lives, whether through careful mission planning in Europe or through the humane treatment of prisoners in Cuba. His reputation for integrity made him a trusted intermediary for governments and intelligence services alike. Even adversaries recognized his professionalism, a rare trait in the high-stakes world of espionage. In Cuba, following the failed Bay of Pigs invasion, Donovan faced one of the most delicate assignments of his career. Thousands of prisoners were held in difficult conditions, and tensions between the United States and Cuba were at a peak. Donovan's task required both courage and ingenuity. He met with Cuban officials, including Fidel Castro himself, and negotiated under conditions that were both politically sensitive and physically risky. Donovan's success in securing the release of the prisoners demonstrated the effectiveness of intelligence-based diplomacy. It also illustrated his unique ability to navigate complex political landscapes where military force alone would have been inadequate. Donovan's interpersonal skills were as critical as his strategic mind. He had an exceptional talent for reading people, understanding their motivations, and identifying opportunities for compromise. In tense negotiations, he remained calm and composed, even when faced with hostility or unexpected developments. These traits were honed through years of experience in both legal practice and intelligence work, and they proved invaluable during the high-stakes exchanges and covert operations that defined his career. His legacy also includes the way he bridged the gap between law and espionage. Many intelligence operations during World War II and the early Cold War existed in gray areas of legality. Donovan's ability to interpret laws, anticipate legal consequences, and advise on compliance strategies ensured that American intelligence operations maintained credibility both at home and internationally. This approach not only protected agents in the field, but also reinforced the ethical standards of the emerging American intelligence community. Visualizing Donovan's career is like tracing a complex network of international connections. From the streets of New York City to the war-scarred capitals of Europe, from the tense chambers of East Berlin to the tropical landscapes of Havana, Donovan's path intersected with critical historical moments. Each location was more than a backdrop. It represented a stage where intelligence, diplomacy, and moral judgment intersected to produce outcomes that shaped the Cold War and beyond. The cities themselves, from the bustling offices in Washington, D.C., to the secretive safe houses in Berlin and London, are integral to understanding the stakes and pressures under which Donovan operated. In addition to his professional achievements, Donovan's personal qualities contributed to his effectiveness as a negotiator. He possessed remarkable resilience, maintaining focus under extreme stress and pressure. He demonstrated strategic patience, understanding that some objectives required time, observation, and careful preparation rather than immediate action. Moreover, Donovan's ethical grounding provided a stable foundation for decision-making in situations where moral compromise could have devastating consequences. These qualities not only defined his professional career but also earned him respect across national and political boundaries. Throughout his life, Donovan maintained close relationships with a network of intelligence officers, diplomats, and legal experts. These relationships were essential to the success of his operations, as trust and credibility often determined the outcome of delicate negotiations. Donovan's ability to cultivate and sustain these connections reflected both his intelligence and his deep understanding of human nature. In many ways, the story of Donovan is also the story of collaboration in intelligence work, where success depends not solely on individual brilliance but on coordinated effort and mutual trust among a diverse set of actors. The culmination of Donovan's career highlights the intersection of historical events and personal skill. The U-2 exchange and the Cuban negotiations are not just isolated incidents. They are emblematic of the broader dynamics of the Cold War, in which intelligence, diplomacy, and law were constantly intertwined. Donovan's work demonstrates that history is often shaped by individuals who combine intellect, courage, and moral clarity to navigate the most challenging circumstances. Even in retirement, Donovan's influence persisted. He continued to advise on international legal matters and share his insights on intelligence and diplomacy. His career serves as a blueprint for how strategic thinking, ethical conduct, and interpersonal skill can shape outcomes on a global scale. Historians and intelligence professionals continue to study his methods, not only for their practical implications but also for the lessons they offer in leadership, negotiation, and ethical decision-making. Donovan's life also offers important insights into the nature of trust in high-stakes environments, whether negotiating with adversaries during the U-2 incident or navigating tense political landscapes in Cuba. His success relied on the careful cultivation of credibility. He understood that trust is both fragile and essential. It must be built through consistent action, ethical behavior, and clear communication. These principles remain relevant for negotiators, diplomats, and intelligence officers today. Ultimately, James Donovan exemplifies the power of intelligence, negotiation, and moral courage in shaping history. He proves that some of the most important victories are not won on the battlefield, but through careful strategy, thoughtful diplomacy, and the courage to act ethically under pressure. His story serves as a reminder that history is influenced not only by governments and armies but also by individuals whose vision, intelligence, and character guide critical decisions in the most challenging circumstances.